Well, delighted to be joined by Adam Booth at the press conference. Lee Wood's huge fight against Michael Conway this weekend. Adam, how has Michael been looking in the build-up to this fight?
I just want to say he's ready. And you can apply that answer to any question about Michael Conway, whether it's physical, mental, physiological, emotional. My answer is going to be he's ready. That's it.
How much have you enjoyed working with him, and what have been the key things that you've had to work on him with after all he achieved as an amateur, now looking to do it as a pro?
Great question, and it's been an evolution over 4 years, and also a learning curve for me. When Mick started with me, I spoke to a very good friend of mine who has a knowing eye for boxing, Gary Logan, and I said to him, I don't get it. I know he's world number one as an amateur, and he's lauded up, but I'm not seeing what I'm hearing about. And Gary said to me, trust yourself as a coach, do your job. I'll tell you one thing about Mick, he's made of the right stuff. And now I understand wholeheartedly what he meant about Mick Conway when he said he is made of the right stuff. Training is 90% physical, fighting is 90% mental, and that is where that element plays out in Michael Conway.
And in terms of the fight this weekend, from a mental and a physical point of view, what are the key things that fans should be looking out for?
Well, just enjoy the fight, right? Fans are there and are watching to enjoy evenly matched fights where they believe that the winner can't be determined going into the fight. And for the fans, this is that type of fight. Just enjoy it. Don't try and be too analytical. Just enjoy it for what it is.
Is that the way you see it, as an evenly matched fight?
No comment. I know this fight could be totally one-sided, but we are prepared for a fight that's not totally one-sided, and that's where my belief sits.
What do you like about Lee Wood? Do you appreciate the journey that he's been on? He felt like for many he was in no man's land for a while, but he's come out of nowhere and now he's got a world title around his belt.
Lee has suffered what the vast majority of fighters suffer, and that's not being given opportunity or the support structure or network to allow themselves to maximise their abilities and have potential. And like I said, opportunity. But he's in his 30s and he's having an Indian summer to his career. And he comes across, honestly, like a true pro and a decent dude. And because of that, I'm happy for him. But all I hope for Saturday is the total opposite for him.
Michael is supremely confident. We saw him up there on the stage. What do you think is possible for him in his career as a pro? We know he's done it all as an amateur. What can he do as a pro?
I won't allow my mind to think of anything beyond every single tiny moment on Saturday night. For me, that's all it is. Saturday is about winning every single moment of that fight. What comes after will come after.
I've got a worrying feeling if this goes to 12 rounds in Nottingham that there could be something going on with the judging. Maybe fans will feel that as well. How do you feel about the situation after what happened 2 weeks ago in Glasgow?
Can't go into a fight fighting the judges. Sometimes judges and what happens to fighters is disgusting. And that's been probably highlighted now a little bit louder and a bit brighter than ever before. So hopefully that reverberates a bit longer. But you don't go into a fight and you don't deal with the nanosecond adjustments of what's happening in front of you, thinking about the opinion of 3 dudes sitting at ringside. So we have faith in Mick and what Mick can do, and that's where our belief and confidence is.
When it comes to the judging and scoring of fights, is there something that needs to be fixed in this sport so we don't have what happened 2 weeks ago?
Absolutely. I think that's probably the most obvious answer to give to that. Just to say that judging is subjective is a crock of shit, because yes, subjective opinions are based on bias and what an individual may or may not like, but it has to come down to certain criteria. The subjective element of scoring has to be based on criteria, and there are fights where you apply basic criteria: landing shots, not getting caught, controlling the fight, determining the pattern of a fight is basic criteria for anyone that knows what they're looking at in boxing. You can't just get that totally wrong and just say, well, it's subjective in my opinion. That's bollocks. And hopefully, like you have professional referees in football, I think the business of boxing is big enough now. There's enough money flowing through Eddie Hearn's fingers and Frank Warren's fingers and all these guys. There's enough money to have professional officials.
The British Boxing Board of Control, they've written this morning a statement, and actually they've downgraded one of the judges from A star class to A star. But one interesting thing, they've written to all the different governing bodies, they've asked for Jack Castrol to be made a mandatory. Do you think that's the right decision, that Jack does get another opportunity?
As a bare minimum, in some sports you can overturn decisions.
Do you think we should be able to overturn decisions? That's what some people want to see.
I think that should be an option on the table when faced with scenarios like this. I'm not saying that's what has to happen for that fight. I know Josh Taylor. I like Josh Taylor. And I like Josh Taylor as a fighter. But he didn't win the fight.
I spoke to Andy Lee a few weeks ago, and he said AJ should be teaming up with Adam Booth. He's the best coach in the UK. AJ has decided he's going to team up with Angel Fernandez now as his main trainer. What do you make of that decision?
AJ's got to do what he believes is best for him. I think if you look at the challenges that he had early in his career and how he evolved as a fighter and how quickly he got to being world heavyweight champion, he was kind of learning on the job under the spotlight, and I've got nothing but respect for him for that, because that's not an easy thing to do, to be defending your world title and practicing something new with 10-ounce gloves for the first time. But he's kind of been doing that, and I'm sure he will, whatever decision he makes, he will continue to have high level and high profile success.
Our thoughts are, of course, with Alexander Usyk, with what's going on in the Ukraine at the moment, but it leaves AJ in a bit of a pickle in terms of what he's going to do this summer. There was some talk yesterday about a fight between Anthony Joshua and Joyce. Do you like that fight? Do you see it as being a realistic fight to make at this stage?
Love that fight, but let's not feel too sorry for AJ at the moment. He's had quite a nice, buoyant career, and I'm pretty sure it will survive a few months. In terms of Joyce, I will say this now, I've said it before, and I'll always say it. He is an absolute nightmare for any heavyweight on the planet. If you're going to fight Joyce, make sure that the risk is worth the gain, or the gain is worth the risk.
And it wouldn't necessarily be there because there wouldn't be a title on the line at that stage.
That's something you've got to consider.
Finally, because I've taken a lot of your time already, White against Fury. Of course, White didn't turn up at the press conference. What did you make of that from his point of view?
No, I mean, I know Dillian. I've known him since he was an amateur. Didn't surprise me. He's a very stubborn, single-minded dude, and it's all fun and games.
Fight you're looking forward to. What do you think happens? Of course, everybody's seeing Tyson Fury as a huge favourite, but do you think Dillian can pose him real trouble on that night?
Well, I know Dillian can pose questions of Tyson. Yes, Tyson is the favourite. Unbeaten world heavyweight champion and has overcome every possible obstacle in his way. Dillian hasn't done that. He's been knocked off the perch a couple of times. I think the interesting thing that's probably going to catch them both out at some point in the fight is the length of the arm of the other man. Dillian's got freakishly long arms for a man his height, and that's something that he's benefited from his entire career. Tyson Fury, freakishly long arms and 6'9". Obviously has the reach advantage over Dillian, and that's something that Dillian's not necessarily used to. But equally, Tyson's probably not used to having someone who's shorter than him but has long arms, and I think that's going to be a factor in the fight as well.
Can you see it going the distance?
No.
Early stoppage?
I don't see it going the distance.